Queen Isis, wise and watchful. Isis, discover the secrets. Isis, mother protector. Isis, bless the children. The great God, the Father God, Ra, rose in the morning and sailed with his chariot of gold across the heavens as the sun. And in the evening he came back down to earth, where Ra ruled over the men and women of Egypt. Ra's wife, the goddess Nut, wanted to have children gods. No, said Ra. It is foretold that if I have children, one day they will take my place and rule over the land. I forbid you, Nut, to have children on any day of the year. But Nut wanted children. And Nut, she went to Thoth, 3 times wise God. And she asked Thoth to help her. And Thoth, 3 times wise, went to the moon god, Khonsu, and he entered into a game of drafts. Well, he played against Khonsu, and every time Thoth, 3 times wise, won. And each time Khonsu, the moon god, wagered more of his light. And more light Thoth won from Khonsu, the moon god, until he had so much light that the moon did not have enough light to shine every night of the month. On certain nights of the month there is no moon, is that true?
Yeah.
And with the light that Thoth had won from the moon god, Thoth created 5 new days in the year, between the end of the old year and the beginning of the new year. And he gave these days to Nut. And because these days were not part of the old year as ordered by Ra, Nut could give birth to 5 children. On the first day, she gave birth to Osiris.
Osiris.
Come on, let me hear you.
Osiris.
Osiris, the god of peace. On the second day, she reserved for the god Horus, who would one day be born. On the third day, she gave birth to Set, the evil one, the god of the desert. On the 4th day, she gave birth to Isis, Queen Isis, wise and watchful. Say, Queen Isis, wise and watchful.
Queen Isis, wise and watchful.
Queen Isis, discover the secrets.
Queen Isis, discover the secrets.
Queen Isis, mother protector.
Queen Isis, mother protector.
Isis, bless the children.
Isis, bless the children.
And on the last day, the 5th day, Nut gave birth to Nephthys, beautiful goddess. And when the 5 gods were born, Ra was not pleased. The gods grew. They were strong. They watched their father, Ra, rise in the east at the beginning of the day and shine through the day and then come back down to the world in the evening, where he remained at night. Now, grown up, Isis married her brother, Osiris, her husband brother. And Set, the evil one, married his sister Nephthys, his sister wife. That is how it was in ancient Egypt. But Isis, wise and watchful, she wanted her husband Osiris. She wanted him to rule over the land of Egypt. After all, Osiris had seen that the land of Egypt was full of cruelty. There was fighting and brutality. There was cruelty. The people cheated each other. He wanted peace. And Isis, wise and watchful, discovered the secrets. Isis saw that Ra, the sun god, was growing old. And she saw that when he came down to earth at the end of each day, he drooled and his spit fell on the land. And Isis, she gathered up that spit secretly and she rubbed it together with the earth and she formed a snake. And the snake hid. And when old Ra came down from the heavens to the world, unseen, the snake darted forward and bit him. And Ra cried out in pain, "How can the king of gods, Ra, be harmed?" And he was in agony, and he called all the gods around him and asked them to help him. "How can Ra be hurt? I am the great Father God." But none knew. But Isis discovered the secrets. She whispered to Ra, "Oh, Father Ra, tell me your true name. Tell me your secret name, and I will help you." "I am Ra, the beginning and the ending. I am Ra, the light and the dark. I am Ra, ruler over Egypt." "All know these names," whispered Isis, wise and watchful. "But what is your secret name? I will help you." And Ra, he waved the other gods away. And he brought Isis close. And from his heart to her heart, he told his true and secret name. And with this knowledge, Isis gave to her husband Osiris. And with this secret name, Osiris took over from his father and began to rule over the land of Egypt. And Ra rose to the heavens and could no longer come to earth. Osiris was a peace lover, a bringer of peace, so it had been foretold. He taught people to respect one another, to look each other in the eye, that truth would be spoken. And people lived well, and people smiled when they greeted each other. Isis, wise and watchful, she found grain, the grain of wheat and the grain of barley. And she showed these to her husband, and Osiris took the wheat and the barley and gave it to the people of Egypt and told them to plant it after the flood that came each year on the river Nile. And when the flood went down, they planted the grains of wheat and barley, and the great crops grew. And Osiris taught them to cut the grain, to harvest the grain, and to grind it into flour to make bread. He showed them how to grow grapes and make wine. And the people of Egypt were glad. So it went on. Isis loved Osiris. She had the wisdom that he needed. Everybody was glad in Egypt except for one, and you know who that was, don't you? The evil one. Do you remember his name? Set. Everybody.
Set.
Set, the evil one, was jealous. He wanted power, and he was cruel. He hated Osiris. He despised Isis. He waited. He gathered secretly his evil servants and followers. And finally, Osiris said, I have brought good to the people of Egypt. All is well. My wife Isis, you rule over Egypt while I go to foreign lands and bring them peace. And when he had gone, Isis, she took care of the land of Egypt, and she ruled wisely. Set could do nothing while she ruled so wisely. He knew that she was watchful. And in her womb, Isis carried a child, Horus, who would be born the son of Osiris. The second day, Horus, son of Osiris and Isis. The third day, Set, the evil one. The fourth day,
Isis.
and the last day, Nephthys. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to ask me as many questions as you can and find out what happens in the next part of the story before I tell you. Go. Okay.
Does anybody die?
Yes. I'll tell you who dies. Osiris dies.
Does Set kill Osiris?
Set kills Osiris. Do you want to know how?
How?
Ask me.
Okay. Does he drown him?
No, he doesn't drown him. He puts Osiris in a beautiful casket, a beautiful box that he has made. But Osiris gets into the box quite pleased because he thinks it's for him. But when he gets into the box, well, do you want to find out what happened?
Yeah.
Ask me.
Did he die?
He died because Set put the lid down on the box and sealed it with molten lead. So inside the box, Osiris could not breathe. But find out what happened after that. Ask me.
Does anyone find it?
Yes, it gets washed up on the shore of a place called Byblos. And it goes inside a tree. But who finds it is his wife, Isis. You got a lot of information then, didn't you? Okay. Can you remember what you just found out?
Yeah.
Turn to the person sitting next to you. Make sure it's someone who's got a good memory. Okay? And together, tell the story of what you think is going to happen in the next part. And Isis ruled wisely over Egypt. And Set could find no way to trick her. But now Isis was great with child, and she went to the delta at the mouth of the river Nile. And there on an island, she prepared to give birth to Horus. And at that time, Osiris returned from distant lands to Egypt. Now, Set, the evil one, had prepared a feast. Oh, my brother, Osiris, welcome back to Egypt. There will be dancing, and there will be food, and there will be wine for you to drink. And the dancing proceeded, and it was wild and wonderful. And there was delicious food to eat. And Osiris drank cups of wine made on the banks of the Nile. And when the party was in full swing, Set ordered his followers to bring the beautiful casket that he had made. And it was a casket, a box like none you've seen. It was made not from the soft palm wood of Egypt, but from cedar wood from Lebanon, sweet smelling, and from ebony from the south. Black ebony was inlaid. It was painted with gold and silver, pictures of animals and birds. The casket was encrusted with jewels. And when Osiris saw this wonderful casket, he said, "Why, brother, what is this?" "It is a prize," said Set. "Whoever fits inside this casket, it will belong to him." "Let us see," said Osiris. And Set ordered his conspirators, his cruel servants, one by one to climb inside the casket. But the first was too fat, and the second was too thin. The third was too tall, and the next was too short. They were all the wrong size to fit perfectly inside that casket. Until finally all had tried, and Set turned to Osiris and said, "Brother, king, ruler of Egypt, try." And gladly Osiris climbed inside the jewelled casket. And do you know what? He fitted perfectly. And Osiris said, "Oh, the casket is mine." But Set, at that moment, his followers brought a lid and set it upon Osiris. And Osiris was trapped inside. And Set brought molten lead and sealed the box. And inside Osiris could not breathe. And inside the body of Osiris was dead. And Set and his cruel followers carried that box to the river Nile, and they threw it into the deep water, and it was carried along. And Set, the evil one, ruled over Egypt. And there was great thunder. Egypt had been peaceful and full of love. But now there was evil and hatred, violence, death. But far away on the island in the delta of the Nile, Isis, wise and watchful, she knew that Osiris at that moment was dead. And she left her new baby, Horus, with eyes as blue as sky and as green as sea. She left him to search for her husband. But the body had been carried in that casket the length of the river Nile and out across the waves of the great green sea. And a great wave had washed it onto the shore at Byblos. And there it had landed in a tamarisk tree. And the tamarisk tree had grown tall and mighty with fragrant flowers. So mighty that the king of Byblos had seen it and had it cut down, and the trunk made a great pillar. And he built his palace around that great trunk, where he lived with his queen, Astarte. They did not know that Osiris's body, the body of that god, was inside the pillar that held up their palace. Isis looked for her dead husband's body. Could she find it?
No.
She looked everywhere and none could help her. But then, at the bank of the Nile, she met some Isis, good Queen Isis. We saw the casket carrying Osiris. It shone so bright with jewels, and it floated down the Nile. And Isis walked along the banks of the Nile, and every place where she came to children, they pointed the way. On she went, and more children showed her the way to follow the casket that carried her dead husband. And Isis, she blessed the children. And she declared from then on that children would speak words of wisdom, and that children would tell of things yet to come. Queen Isis, wise and watchful. Isis, discover the secrets. Isis, mother protector. Isis, bless the children. And on she followed until she came to the shore at Byblos, and there she sat. And the servants of Queen Astarte, the queen of Byblos, they came down to the shore to bathe, and they saw this wonderful woman with plaited hair, and they asked her, for they had never seen hair in plaits, and she showed them and plaited their hair for them so beautifully. And when they returned to the palace at Byblos, Queen Astarte said, "Oh, where did you get your hair plaited like that?" And she smelt on them a fragrance of perfume so fine, and they said, "There is a wonderful woman sitting on the shore." And Queen Astarte, she hurried down to the shore, and there was Isis upon the shore, and she seemed like a human, but of such beauty. And Queen Astarte said, "Come with me, come to my palace and look after my children, Maneros and Dictys. But Dictys, my youngest son, is sick. He is dying. Please come and care for him." And gladly Isis went. And she gave her finger to little Dictys for him to suck. And as he sucked on her finger, he became strong and well. And she looked after him and his older brother Maneros. And she thought, "This little Dictys, I will make him into a god." And Isis, she turned herself into a small bird, a swallow. And she flew around and around Dictys. And she burned away the flesh from his body so he could become a god. But Queen Astarte was watching, and she cried out, "My child, my child!" And at this moment, the spell was broken, and Dictys remained a human baby. And Queen Isis, she revealed herself to Astarte, a shining goddess, and Astarte fell upon the ground. "I am Isis, and in the pillar that holds up your palace is my husband Osiris's body. You must take down your palace." And gladly Queen Astarte and her husband, King Malkander, they destroyed their palace, and they opened up the pillar. And Isis, seeing the coffin, that shining, jewelled, gold-painted coffin, she took it and cried with such a weep, such a cry, that the baby Dictys died. And she asked for the casket. She asked for a ship. And Malkander, the king, gave her a ship. And she put the casket in the ship, and she climbed on board. And they said, "Take Maneros, our other son." So he sailed with her across the ocean. But there in the ocean, Isis, she opened up the casket to see the body of her dead husband. And as she gazed upon him, Maneros, the other boy, he crept up behind. He wanted to see. And he peeked over her shoulder. And she turned with such anger, such a bright flash of anger, that he stumbled backwards and fell overboard, and Maneros drowned in the sea. And Isis, she carried on sailing until she came to the delta, and there was the island of Buto. And she put her husband Osiris, she buried him in a safe place with that coffin left. And she went to Buto to find her son on the island that floated, her son Horus. But Set, the evil one, still ruled over Egypt. And Set was hunting in that place with his dogs. He was hunting wild boar. And as he hunted, Set, he saw shining in the reeds, he saw the casket he had made to destroy his brother. And in fury he opened that casket. "I, Set, will destroy this god Osiris. And Set, he tore Osiris's body into 14 pieces, and with his magic he strew those pieces of his brother god's body the length of the River Nile. I have destroyed Osiris. And he ruled in evil over the land. Queen Isis, she knew what had passed, and she left her child, Horus, his eyes as blue as sky, his eyes as green as the green sea. And she went in search of the pieces of her husband's body. She pulled reeds from the banks of the Nile and cut them. And from these papyrus reeds she made a boat. And she sailed in her boat through the waters in search of Osiris. Set wanted the crocodiles to eat Osiris's body, but the crocodiles did not touch his body because they knew of the goodness and wisdom of Isis. And from that day to this, anyone who sails on the River Nile in a boat made of papyrus, they will not be harmed by crocodiles. Isis, she went searching, and in her wisdom she found the first piece of her husband's body. And using her wise magic, from thin air, she created a new body of her husband, Osiris. And that body she rubbed with oils and perfume and wrapped in bandages. And she had it buried by priests in the sand. And a temple was built to Osiris. But she took the piece that she had found, and on the papyrus boat she went seeking further. And then she found another piece of his body. And from that piece, again, with magic, she made a new body of her husband and had it embalmed and buried by priests. And another temple was built to her husband. And on she searched, and each piece she found, a new temple was built, until she had found 13 pieces of her husband's body. But she did not find the 14th piece. The 14th piece had been eaten by wicked fishes in the Nile. And from that day to this, those fish are not caught or eaten by the Egyptians. When she had all 13 pieces, there were 13 temples the length of the River Nile, and each place claimed to be the burial place of Osiris. And this confused Set, who wanted to destroy his brother's body. But secretly, Isis now put together the 13 pieces of her husband's body, the true pieces, and the 14th piece she made by modelling clay from the banks of the Nile. And when it was complete, there was great ceremony, and together with Horus, she buried Osiris in the sacred place to the west of the Nile, Duat, where Osiris rules over the souls of the dead. But now Horus had grown strong, and Horus wanted to avenge his father's death. And his father, the god Osiris, in spirit, came to him. What is the most noble thing a son can do? Avenge his father's death. And what animal will help you? A horse, not a lion, said Osiris. A lion would protect me if I was being attacked, but with a horse I can chase my enemy. I can cut him off and I can destroy him. And Osiris knew that Horus was ready. And Horus gathered a great army. And Horus had bright eyes that could see clearly like a falcon, as blue as the sky and as green as the sea. And the great god Ra came down from the heavens and spoke to Horus. And as he spoke to Horus and gave him power, Ra and Horus did not notice the huge black pig that came with sharp tusks. This black pig was Set in disguise. And suddenly Ra said, "Why? I have never seen such a huge and powerful black pig." And at that moment the pig attacked Horus, and with a great flash of blinding light, Horus could not see, his eyes were darkened. But he was escaped from that place with Ra and was taken to a dark room, and for a long time he was blind. The eyes of Horus, he regained slowly his sight. And when he could see again, his sight was more powerful than before. And he raised a great army and built great ships and sailed on the river Nile. And the war against the evil Set began. Set had his cruel followers, a mighty army. But Horus's fleet that went on the river Nile was strong. Great battles ensued. The fights were bloody. Many were killed. Sometimes Horus had the upper hand. Sometimes Set's vengeance was terrible. Until finally at Heathfield, after many years, the final battle began. Set had turned himself into a huge red hippopotamus and stood astride the river Nile. Horus was attacked. The roar of the hippopotamus sent a great wave down the Nile, and most of the ships of Horus's fleet were sunk, but Horus' own ship shone brightly in the darkness. And faced against the storm, Horus grew tall, 12 foot tall, and in his hand he held a spear, so bright-bladed and sharp. And he threw the spear, and it pierced the hippopotamus' head, and Set fell dead across the Nile. And the priests came. All praise to Horus! Horus at Edfu has defeated the evil one, the avenger of his father Osiris' death. Let Horus rule over Egypt. Horus the brave. Horus the good. Horus the good. And there, in that ceremony that followed, the hippopotamus was chopped to pieces, and his flesh was fed to cats. His guts were fed to reptiles, and his bones were crushed and ground and thrown into the desert. And Set went to the afterlife. The evil one had gone. And Horus and his mother Isis in great ceremony celebrated a new era in Egypt. Horus ruled, and there was peace again. And when Horus finally died and went to the afterlife, he met his father Osiris. And Set, his evil uncle, battled against him, and battles still for the hearts of men and women. Those who do wrong and evil follow Set, but those who are good and true follow Horus. And when anyone dies, they wish their body to be preserved, mummified, buried under a great pyramid, so they might live on forever. And one day, when Osiris returns in human form to the paradise of Egypt, those who have done wicked deeds will be destroyed in agony. But those who lived good lives will come back and live in the paradise forever, ruled by Horus, his father Osiris, and his mother, Queen Isis. wise and watchful. Isis, discover the secrets. Isis, mother protector. Isis, bless the children.